Welcome back to Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. This is Roger Hoover in Tuscaloosa. Now, please be joined by the ESPN sideline reporter for Alabama's game against Western Kentucky. It is Taylor McGregor, who is also the sideline reporter for the Chicago Cubs. She joins us now from Pittsburgh as she gets ready for this Saturday. And Taylor, let me be the first to say, roll Tide. How's everything going?
Well, I think I'm going to say Legitsburg because sometimes that's how I refer to Pittsburgh. This place is better than people give it credit for. But no, super happy to hear Roll Tide because that means we're nearing football season. This is week one and my first trip to Tuscaloosa to experience a football game. I have been there before, but this will be my first football game and I could not be more excited.
Well, you get to interview Kalen DeBoer as the head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide, not Nick Saban, so your first television reporter that Coach DeBoer will talk to pregame or at halftime, postgame. How excited are you for what he's bringing to this Alabama program?
I'm a little less intimidated by Kalen DeBoer than I am Nick Saban. But I'm so excited to showcase who Kalen DeBoer is to the entire Alabama fan base across the country. I feel like in a sense we're introducing Kalen DeBoer to a large audience, and I think it's really awesome. I mean, you just think about 10 years ago plus when Nick Saban was taking over Alabama's program, where Kalen DeBoer was in his career, and he was still back in South Dakota, and to just reminisce on his kind of upbringing through the coaching ranks has been really, really fun. And to see how much success he's experienced relatively early in his career as a head coach is awesome. So I have high hopes for him at Alabama. And I know the Alabama fan base does as well because of the consistent winning that this fan base has experienced over the last decade plus.
What else have you learned in your research getting ready for Saturday that excites you about the Crimson Tide? Any stories you can't wait to share?
Well, I think there's just so much to dive into when it comes to Alabama. I mean, what impact will Kalen DeBoer bring when it comes to this offense? You look at the two quarterbacks that led the country in passing a year ago, and it was Austin Reed and Michael Penix Jr., which was Western Kentucky and Washington. Now the two coaches coaching in this game on Saturday. And then I think Alabama, they struggled giving up sacks a year ago. Washington did not. And now you have Kalen DeBoer and a new coaching staff to maybe correct some of the things, new personnel on the line of scrimmage as well. That's something I'm going to pay attention to. Of course, Jalen Milroe is the biggest story, I think, for anybody. I mean, around college football, in order to be a successful team, you have to have a successful quarterback. So rightfully so that everybody pays attention to the quarterback. But I think with Jalen, we saw him make those explosive plays, and he can be incredibly dynamic with his legs, but how will he handle the intermediate passing game? That's what everybody wants to know. That's what I want to know. And that's what Kalen DeBoer's offense really entailed last year, was that intermediate passing game to then set up those explosive plays for Michael Penix Jr. So how will Milroe handle this new offense? How will they utilize his legs? How will they utilize the tight ends? I mean, there's just such a long list of stories that I'm really interested in. I think on the defensive side of the ball, a lot of youth in the secondary, a lot of new faces overall. So, how will they handle a TJ Finley, who, again, look, this Western Kentucky team is not a Georgia or a Power 5 team, but they're still picked to finish second in Conference USA. They can put up a lot of points. And so how will this young secondary handle a dynamic passing game in Western Kentucky? I think it's going to be an interesting test very early in the season. So those are kind of some of the things that I'll be paying attention to. And the list is really long for sure.
And you mentioned on the other sideline, Western Kentucky, a really dynamic team. Like you mentioned, the passing game, but they won 8 games a year ago. Tyson Hilton's pretty firmly established in Bowling Green. What have you learned so far about the Hilltoppers?
Yeah, I think what's interesting is I think everybody, when they heard that TJ Finley was transferring there, you thought, oh, he's automatically QB1. But I think there was a little bit more of a quarterback battle than people expected. So do we see more than TJ Finley on Saturday? We'll see. A lot of new faces. I mean, this is nothing new with college football and the transfer portal. Like a lot of teams go through massive turnover year in and year out. But can they sustain who they were a year ago? And there was a really good non-power 5, power 4, however you want to say it, team. And can they continue the offensive explosion with the new quarterback? Some of the skilled players are gone from last year. How much will they run the ball? They have a transfer in Elijah Young, who came over from Mizzou. Last year was his first year at Western Kentucky, so he's played in the SEC. He's a talent. How much will they run the ball with him? He kind of took on a bulk of the load a year ago. So I think one thing for sure is they're going to score points. How much can they score against Alabama? We'll see. But they're certainly a team that's established themselves in Conference USA.
Your first assignment of the year in college football season, you get to come here to Tuscaloosa to Bryant Stadium. How much do you love the environments and getting to share the energy and excitement of the fan base at a place like Alabama and bring that to television?
I mean, it's the coolest thing, and I just feel so grateful. I'm literally getting chills thinking about it right now. There's nothing like the start of a show on a Saturday, especially a Saturday night in one of the premier SEC venues. It's just so special. And I was talking to TJ Finley this morning. Today's Tuesday of game week. And I was asking him, he started before against Alabama. He spent some time in the SEC at Auburn and LSU. So I was like, okay, how are you prepared going into a game like this? And he said, I've been telling my guys to let the moment give you chills, let the crowd give you chills. And I thought that was an interesting point by him to, just take it all in. And as a reporter, that's what I would say I do is every single Saturday, I just try to remind myself how grateful I am to do this and how many people would kill to be on the sideline at Alabama on a primetime ESPN game on Saturday night, because it's truly one of the coolest things I've ever experienced in my life. Those moments right before kick. So I cannot wait. It's going to be so much fun. And I'm sure you're feeling the same type of emotion going into week one.
Yes, absolutely. You'll be on the sidelines, but in the booth, you'll have Dusty Dvorak as your analyst and then Dave Pasch on play-by-play. What do you like about your crew and getting to work together with these guys this year?
Well, they're pros, and I've watched Dave and Dusty for so long, and for me, getting bigger games has always been a goal, and so to be on this crew and consistently get really good matchups, I just feel so grateful and fortunate, and then to work with them, like I remember talking to Katie George, and Katie got elevated pretty early in her career. And she was like, I remember working with Joe Tess for the first time, and Greg McElroy was her analyst that first year. And she's like, it just forces you to level up. When everybody around you is really good at what they do, you're forced to elevate yourself. And so I'm excited for the ways that, they'll teach me things this year, and hopefully I can just continue to grow as a reporter along with them, because they've set a really high standard in this industry, and I'm just so thankful that I get to be a part of this crew. It's going to be so much fun.
A lot of fun coming up on Saturday. And before we let you go, I did want to touch on baseball for a moment. As I mentioned, you work with Chicago Cubs, with Marquee Sports Network, and SEC baseball has been on such a great run over this past decade. Alabama's getting ready to send a lot of guys to the major leagues, but every time you're in a major league clubhouse, now you're seeing recent SEC baseball players. Just what have you made of the rise of SEC baseball and the way it's now translating to Major League Baseball?
Yeah, so I was in college. I went to Arkansas. So Arkansas is an elite baseball program year in and year out. And so I, experienced it firsthand in college. But now what we're seeing in Major League Baseball is the game's getting younger and younger. So you're seeing these college baseball players make the transition to Major League Baseball faster, and at much younger ages. I'm in Pittsburgh right now. As the Cubs are facing Paul Skeens on Wednesday, the number one overall pick a year ago out of LSU. So Alabama fans certainly know him. College baseball fans know him. So it's been really fun to see. And I think what the SEC has done is it's given a really high level of baseball for these guys to grow, to make adjustments at as much as you possibly can before making the transition to pro ball. And I think scouts have really enjoyed it. I think we're seeing a lot more guys drafted out of college than we are high school, because they're just ready and they've experienced a lot. So I'm a huge fan of SEC baseball venues and just watching the sport grow overall. And there's been a ton of talent that's come out of it, which has been really fun.
Well, Taylor, best of luck to you and my Cubbies the rest of the week. We can't wait to have you here in Tuscaloosa on Saturday for Alabama against Western Kentucky. Just thank you for all the time you've given us on the Crimson Tide Sports Network, and safe travels.
Thanks for having me. It's going to be so fun to meet you, and cannot wait to be in Tuscaloosa on Saturday.